Creation demands destruction. Every act of building consumes a resource. The body obeys the same law. Every orgasm spends a substance engineered to build life. Minerals, proteins, electrical gradients, your DNA blueprint. The reward is the strongest dopamine spike a living nervous system can generate, the likes under which every other pleasure dims when compared to it. Spend that spike often enough and you flatten your ability to feel at all. Your motivational system collapses because the reward comes without effort. If you burn that charge daily, you burn your drive. Retention isn't moralism, it is energy management. Today I will show you exactly what semen is, what release costs, what retention returns, and how lust and porn hijack inner circuitry. But for that, we need to start with the first and most important rule. Creation is never free. Every output requires a conversion from potential to kinetic. For the body, ejaculation is a deliberate expenditure of condensed life force, material, electrical, and informational. The body allocates rare minerals, fatty acids, trace elements, and enzymatic complexes into a substance it assumes will be used to generate a new organism. When that substance is repeatedly spent without reproductive intent, the cost remains. High-value biological resources leave the system. This conversion mirrors universal energy principles observed in physics and systems theory. Something must be diminished for something else to appear. With semen, the cost is uniquely significant because it represents the highest density biological investment the male body produces. Chronic depletion disrupts the balance. Over time, the organism must continually replenish what is being lost, leading to subtle deficiencies, lowered resilience, and macro deficits that accumulate into fatigue, irritability, and cognitive dullness. The process is not metaphorical, it is measurable in nutrient expenditure and endocrine shifts. But why does this happen specifically with semen and not with other bodily fluids like sweat, tears, or blood? Semen is not a simple fluid. It is a distilled biological blueprint. It carries DNA, micronutrients, high ATP concentrations, zinc, selenium, methyl donors, and the highest density of genetic information the male body produces. The body manufactures it with priority even during sleep deprivation or caloric deficit. Releasing it frequently redirects resources away from cellular repair, immunity, and neural optimization. This prioritization demonstrates the evolutionary importance of reproduction. Cellular pathways responsible for energy production and genetic maintenance funnel their resources into spermatogenesis, even when the organism is under strain. The fact that the body preserves this process during adverse conditions illustrates how biologically expensive semen is. ATP, the energy currency of the cell, is packed densely into sperm to power motility, while micronutrients like zinc are siphoned from other organ systems. When ejaculation becomes frequent, these resources must be constantly reallocated. Over time, this results in subtle trade-offs: slower tissue regeneration, diminished neurotransmitter synthesis, and weakened immune responses, all because the body keeps attempting to rebuild what is being continually spent. But can we see any basis for this in other cultures, traditions, or even historical texts? Traditions across cultures describe semen as a dual-layered fluid, physical substrate plus a subtle charge. This subtle component is framed as a carrier of intention or imprint, an extra-electrical astral medium bridging mobility processes and non-physical states. Whether taken symbolically or literally, the point holds. Semen is treated as high-signal material, not waste. In systems ranging from Ayurveda to Taoism, this second layer, often termed in Ojas, Jing, or vital essence, is believed to store psychological impressions, emotional states, and energetic signatures. Western esoteric systems similarly regard sexual energy as a carrier of will. Even if interpreted metaphorically, these frameworks converge on the idea that semen possesses a depth beyond mere fluid mechanics. It represents the distilled output of the entire organism's vitality. Its reverence across cultures indicates a long-standing recognition of its potency. Accordingly, losing it is not trivial. The expenditure is seen as releasing not just biological material, but also subtle force capable of influencing consciousness, mood, and perception. Esoteric systems map an internal network, nadis, meridians, channels through which life force circulates. Semen, refined and conserved, is described as feeding these channels. In prolonged depletion, practitioners report diminished clarity, presence, and grounding. The claim is simple. Losing the substance reduces the available fuel for subtle sensory perception. Practitioners often describe heightened sensitivity, mental sharpness, and emotional stability during retention because energy typically lost through ejaculation becomes available for inner processes. These systems propose that conserved sexual essence ascends the spine or disperses through the body, supporting higher forms of awareness. When depletion becomes habitual, individuals report disconnection, mental fog, irritability, or a sense of being dimmed. Even without accepting esoteric terminology, modern neuroscience acknowledges that energy allocation influences cognitive performance. The fuel metaphor holds scientifically, spiritually, and psychologically. When a core resource is constantly drained, the system cannot sustain elevated states of consciousness. Post-ejaculatory fatigue has a biological basis. Dopamine spikes crash rapidly. Prolactin rises sharply. Serotonin shifts occur, and blood pressure dips. The subjective result is a temporary offlining of will and cognition. In chronic users of porn and masturbation, this becomes a baseline state. Low energy, short attention span, and scattered intention. This neurochemical crash resembles withdrawal-like symptoms seen after overstimulation. Elevated prolactin suppresses dopamine, reducing confidence and motivation, while serotonin shifts induce lethargy. Over time, this chemistry trains the nervous system into a cyclic pattern of artificial highs followed by debilitating lows. Users begin chasing stimulation to escape the crash that their own habits created. Attention fragments, goal setting becomes difficult, and emotional stability erodes. What begins as momentary fatigue gradually reshapes personality traits and behavioral patterns, creating a feedback loop between compulsive sexuality and diminished agency. So now that we understand all the disadvantages that come with ejaculation, what should we do instead? Retention is framed not as repression, but as a technology, the deliberate conservation of a multi-layer substance to increase vitality, clarity, and agency. The stance here is not moral but operational. You choose whether to expend or transmute. The mechanism is power management, not abstinence for its own sake. This distinction is essential. Retention is functional, a method of reallocating energy toward higher goals rather than dissipating it. In modern times, it acts as a behavioral intervention that rewires reward pathways. Instead of seeking rapid gratification, the individual channels energy into projects, discipline, physical training, learning, or inner work. Retention becomes a form of energetic budgeting, deciding where your biological currency is invested. When retained, the body reabsorbs seminal components through a process often referred to as recycling or transmutation. Nutrients are reclaimed, hormone balance stabilizes, and mood and cognition increase. Historical traditions, Taoist, yogic, monastic, treat retention as longevity training because the conserved energy feeds repair processes. Ancient systems taught that by reducing leakage, the body had more resources to sustain long life, mental clarity, and deep meditative states. Orgasm produces the highest dopamine peak the nervous system can generate. The system interprets this as mission accomplished. Here's where the problem lies. Repeated artificially stimulated peaks, especially via porn, push baseline dopamine downward. This creates anhedonia, the inability to feel reward from normal life. Retention removes the cyclic crash, allowing baseline sensitivity to restore. This phenomenon is well documented in addiction research. The brain adapts to peak dopamine events by downregulating receptors, making everyday stimuli, food, socializing, creativity, feel dull. By withholding overstimulation, neuroreceptors gradually reset, restoring the ability to enjoy natural rewards, pursue meaningful goals, and experience emotional nuance. But is retention backed by science or the experience of millennia? Modern behavioral psychology confirms the principle. If you receive a reward without achieving a goal, motivation decays. Porn and masturbation offer maximum neurological reward for zero accomplishment. Over time, the brain learns that effort is unnecessary. Retention reverses this pattern. The absence of artificial reward pushes the system to seek real achievements to generate dopamine. Neuroanatomically, compulsive lust engages limbic structures, amygdala, nucleus accumbens, and basal ganglia. These are animal-level circuits. When these dominate, executive functions weaken. Traditions encode this as the lower mind. The claim is not moral, it is neurofunctional. Lust loops lock awareness into primitive signal-seeking. The nervous system has dual operating modes. The lower mind seeks pleasure, novelty, and survival. The higher mind handles abstraction, intuition, and long-range planning. Frequent ejaculation, especially through compulsive stimulation, keeps consciousness rooted in the lower mode. Retention restricts the stimulus that feeds the loop, allowing bandwidth to shift upward. Retention increases mental quiet. When hormonal turbulence stabilizes, cognitive signals emerge. Clearer intuition, stronger long-range thinking, sharper concentration. Traditions describe this as receiving downloads, but the secular explanation is improved neural coherence. Less noise easily translates to more bandwidth. If mastery restores power, then creation must become precise, and ethics must govern what you build with it. Traditions assert that inner creation arises from the union of two forces: the masculine principle, which constitutes will and direction, and the feminine principle, which governs imagination and receptivity. Retention strengthens will by stabilizing energy. In this way, imagination becomes sharper through reduced noise. The synergy creates high-resolution intention, or what is known as internal births. Power without alignment becomes vanity. Retention amplifies intention. The question becomes what the intention serves. Traditions warn that misused sexual power inflates ego, fuels manipulation, or corrupts judgment. Ethical use directs energy toward inner development, service, and clarity, not domination or arrogance. Sexual union merges fields: biochemical, emotional, psychological, and subtle hidden fields. Partner choice becomes code exchange. You take in another's habits, emotional residue, thought patterns, and unresolved tensions. Retention heightens sensitivity to these exchanges because energy is no longer leaking away. Awareness grows around compatibility and risk. Porn induces voyeurism, passivity, and shame. It trains the gaze to be detached from the body where it is in spectator mode, not participant mode. This posture erodes confidence, coherence, and self-presence. On the subtle level, traditions claim it weakens the aura, creating micro-fissures where intrusive impressions enter. On the psychological level, it binds sexual response to screens instead of real connection. Monastic paths treat sexual discipline as preparation for death. detachment from compulsions, cravings, and the lower mind demands. Logic is functional. The less the mind is pulled by bodily urges, the more stable attention becomes. Retention is one component of a larger system of freedom from compulsive patterns. Traditions teach that thought habits and emotional patterns persist beyond physical death. Low-grade cravings such as lust, addiction, compulsion anchor consciousness to the lower astral plane. Retention dissolves craving circuitry and lifts the baseline of awareness. Whether taken metaphysically or psychologically, the implication is identical. Your habits determine your trajectory. Retention is not a trend, it is an operating system of power. It governs clarity, will, vitality, and creation. Guard it, direct it, understand what it costs when spent, and what it returns when conserved. This system is not built on superstition or fleeting online movements. It reflects physiological, psychological, and spiritual principles observed across centuries. Its effects accumulate gradually, reshaping thought patterns, emotional stability, and physical energy. The responsibility lies in experimentation, observation, and self-honesty. Each individual must verify through lived experience whether retention enhances their clarity or power. But, at the same time, do your own research.